7 types of relationships that we need to know how to navigate. The first, we've talked about it, is a coach type of relationship. A coach is someone who takes others down a path of development and competency. That's what a coach does. Take somebody down a certain path so that they can develop their competency, so they can develop their character. This is what a coach does, and we need coaches in our lives, people that can help us develop in many areas of life, people who are there to help us grow. It's one type of relationship. Here's another, the comrade. The comrade is someone who knows you and is for you for the long haul. It's my buddy Luke. This is what a comrade does. They're with you and they're for you for the long haul. Been in your life for a long time. We need people like that. Here's another one, the casual. This is someone you enjoy informally. The casual relationships that we have, the barbecues that we go to a couple times a year, the people that we chat with for 10 minutes in the lobby at church, people we get coffee with and just check in with these people. I think of my buddy Kaysen. Kaysen and I, we do lunch about once, twice a year. It's a casual relationship, but we need people like that, informal relationships that we enjoy. Here's another one, the colleague. A colleague is someone who's a part of your work family. We can, at our places of employment, create a culture that is really healthy and really rich and very meaningful. These are colleagues that we can connect with. High-performing teams are vulnerable teams, and in that sense, it can be sort of like a work family. We don't want work to be more important than family, but when work is like a family, we can create high-performing teams. So colleagues are important relationships we have. Here's another one, a care relationship. This is the type of relationship where someone is providing a resource to those who need it, that we are caring for others and that others are caring for us. We need that type of relationship, a relationship that's really about a transfer of nutrients. But there's 2 other relationships that we find ourselves in, and we need to know how to navigate these as well. Let me share these with you. The 6th relationship is a chronic relationship. This is someone who's constantly in need when they're around you. And this is someone to support without enabling. These are people who often have needs that are pressing and ongoing. These people we can support, we need to support, but we can do so without enabling them to stay as they are, supporting them in healthy and appropriate ways. And if you have someone in your life who chronically needs something from you, one of the things we need to do is discover how we can care without enabling. Now here's one more. Unfortunately, these are types of people we all come in contact with too from time to time. Contaminants. Contaminants, these are people who seek to harm others. These are toxic relationships. People who have ongoing needs, they're often hurting, but they're not trying to hurt you. Contaminants, these are people who are. And when we have those people around us, it's time to set some boundaries. Back to Paul and Barnabas for a moment. There were times where they were comrades, times when they were colleagues. They were certainly friends who cared, and there was definitely some coaching that happened. See, the temptation that many of us face is that if we're not intentional, we will slowly drift into having a few of these relationships, but miss out on others. If we're not intentional, we'll have some casual relationships, probably some colleagues as well, definitely some people who are chronics around us, perhaps contaminants. Those are relationships that if we're not intentional, they will be there. But if we just have those relationships, if we're missing out on comrades, if we're missing out on coaches, if we're missing out on care, it's easy to grow malnourished over time. It takes a lot of wisdom to bring the right relationships into our lives, the right people into our lives, to circle us with people who can pour fuel into our lives. But that's what we need. So I want to ask you a question. What relationships, as you look at this, are you lacking that you think you might need? And then my next question is, what relationships are you in where you're this for someone else? I recently sent an email to 3 people. As many of you know, my role here is changing, and with this new changing role, I need a different context of relationships so that I can receive the fuel that I need. And so I sent an email to 3 very good men that I want in my life. John Townsend, in his book, when he talks about these relationships, calls it a life group. But this group of guys I plan to get with throughout the year so that nutrients can be passed back and forth. The type of relationship where I can experience care, camaraderie, coaching with people who understand what it's like to lead in a world like I lead in, colleagues. I don't know if you have a group of people like that, but John Townsend says it's time to think about creating a group like that. He says, many of us see others as a burden we are to carry personally or professionally, or we see others as not all that interested in entering our wells. But neither of these viewpoints is entirely correct. They're certainly not helpful. He says, instead begin to look, and I want you to do this, begin to look at all of this simply as an ecosystem created by God in which your needs are significant for your well-being. And more than that, there truly are others who could count it a privilege and an honor to provide you with the nutrients you need, certainly for your growth, but also foundationally because you're loved. So I want to give you just a little bit of wisdom should you decide to pursue with intentionality these types of relationships. Here's just some wisdom. Add before you subtract. If you're hearing me today and you're like, I got some chronics in my life, time to get rid of them. Hold on. Before you do that, I want to invite you to add the right relationship before you subtract any, okay? Before you go cutting out people from your life, pick one person to add into your life first. Start with that. Next piece of wisdom, quality before quantity. Don't look at these 5 relationships that are really good that we need and go, all right, I'm gonna add 5 people here and now. No, start with quality before quantity. Add one before you try to add them all. Another piece of wisdom, please remember this, care is not a problem. We need to need. It is okay. Sometimes we think if someone needs care from me, they're a needy person, I should get rid of them. No, see them as someone that needs a nutrient from you. And if you think that maybe you have a need and you want to go ask, but you don't want to be a needy person, remember, care is not a problem. God's designed relationships to really serve us, an ecosystem where needs are delivered and met. Don't be afraid to share your needs. Next piece of wisdom, if you're like, where do I start? Use your calendar, use your contacts. Scroll through your contacts and think about, that person could be that type of person for me. Scroll your contacts, look at your calendar, and schedule something so that you can begin to intentionally walk with the wise, as Proverbs said. And the last one is this, get support when stepping away. Perhaps there is a relationship that you know you need to step away from. Perhaps it would be wise to get support first as you do that so that they can support you, counsel you along the way.